Game Pass has changed a lot this year. If you're completely new to Xbox, maybe you just bought a Series S, you may be wondering which tier of Game Pass is right for you, if any. Even if you're a longtime subscriber like me, the changes to the day one policies and the prices, you may be sitting there thinking, oh, should I downgrade? Should I upgrade? Should I cancel altogether? What's the deal? So in today's edition of Xbox Ready, the YouTube channel that is all about Xbox, we're gonna dive into each tier of Game Pass. We're gonna do some math, and hopefully by the end of it all, you'll have a better idea of which tier of Game Pass is right for you. So let's start with the top tier, Game Pass Ultimate. This tier has gotten a lot of attention over the past couple of weeks because with all of the price increases that they recently implemented, well, Game Pass Ultimate had the highest jump. It had a whole $5 increase. It went from $14.99 a month to $19.99 a month. And at that price point, I think it's fair to question, is this tier gonna be worth it for me? Chances are, if you're subscribed to Game Pass Ultimate, it is hands down the most expensive subscription that you have. So before I get into my personal opinions about this tier, this is the one that I am subscribed to. Let's break down exactly what you get for $20 a month. Number one, you get access to what is reportedly 502 games. That's what it says on the website if you say, hey, show me the catalog for Game Pass Ultimate. But if you look through that library, there are a lot of duplicate games. For example, there is 3 versions of Tales of Arise, Tales of Arise, Tales of Arise for Xbox One, and Tales of Arise for Xbox Series X and S. So if you get rid of duplicates like that, it's more like 462. As of this year, Game Pass Ultimate is also the only tier that will offer you new games that are released and then are immediately added to the Game Pass library. This refers to all first-party games that come out under the Xbox Game Studios umbrella, but also third-party games that Xbox is able to strike a deal with. You get access to Xbox Live, you'll be able to play games online. You also get access to EA Play, which is a select library of EA-published games. Any EA-published Star Wars game that has come out recently, Jedi Survivor, both Star Wars Battlefronts, the Battlefield games, the Crysis games. They've also decided that Game Pass Ultimate is the only tier that's going to have any Activision Blizzard games going forward. Any Call of Duty games, Diablo. They specifically took Modern Warfare 3 off of the middle tier of Game Pass and have locked it behind Game Pass Ultimate. And as with any tier of Game Pass, you also get discounts if you choose to buy any of the games in the library. You'll also have access to something called Ultimate Perks, which are basically little bonuses that Microsoft throws at you for being an Ultimate subscriber. Right now, the perks include bundles that you can redeem for games like XDefiant, Elder Scrolls Online, Multiverses, Sea of Thieves, they usually have bundles on there for. The P3 Reload expansion pass is also on here. And also, it seems like a 14-day trial to Fubo. What's cool about Ultimate Perks is that they kind of function like Games with Gold used to, where if you redeem one of these perks, it's yours to keep for forever. It's not tied to your subscription. You'll also get certain in-game perks, like for Valorant, you get all of the agents. So who exactly is all of this for? When Game Pass Ultimate was $15 a month and Console Game Pass was what, $10.99? Both of those tiers, in my opinion, used to be no-brainers in exchange for what you got. When Ultimate was $15 a month, my logic was, oh, well, $15 a month, that's $180 a year. New games are usually priced like $50 to $70. All I need to do is play 2 or 3 new games in order to meet that threshold of $180 and have my subscription pay for itself. But now that the price has increased from $15 to $20 a month, now you're at $240 a year. And like trying to meet your insurance deductible, that threshold, that requirement of making sure that you're getting the value out of your $240 a year, it's a little bit higher. So the question that you need to be asking yourself if you're seriously considering Game Pass Ultimate is, are you someone that is planning on playing a lot of games? There have been pretty slow periods for Game Pass. I would say all of 2022 was pretty slow, but through 2023 and also through this year, they've been on a roll. They've been adding some really great games. Dead Island 2, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, Resident Evil 2 and 3. They put Control back on there. Warhammer Bolt Gun was really fun. Jedi Survivor, Hellblade 2, still Wakes of the Deep. I'm playing Age of Mythology right now, and also Mafia, the Definitive Edition. We have Stalker 2 coming up. We have Black Ops 6 coming up. All of those games, if I bought them separately, would far exceed the $240 I'm spending for the year on Game Pass Ultimate. But I'm also someone who has time to play through a lot of games. With that, you also have to ask yourself, are you willing to try a wide variety of games? If you're someone who who just like sports games, I know a lot of people like that, or if you just like one specific genre, shooters, RPGs, whatever, you're probably better off just buying games individually within that niche. Sure, it's really exciting that Black Ops 6 is coming to a subscription service like Game Pass Ultimate, but if you're signing up for Game Pass just to play Black Ops 6, you might as well just buy it outright, because what you pay for Game Pass Ultimate over a couple of months of you just using it to play Black Ops 6, at a certain point it's going to exceed what you would have paid up front if you just bought to own the game. That also brings up my next point, which, okay, maybe you are willing to play a wide variety of games from different genres. Maybe you are willing to play a lot of those games, but are you willing to play them at a fast enough clip? For example, they added P3 Reload earlier this year to Game Pass. Awesome. But for anyone who has played a Persona game, you know that it takes a long time. You download it, you boot it up, you love it, and you're like, this is my game. This is the only game that is going to have my attention for the next couple of months. Well, now you're in a situation where it's like, well, over the couple of months that you're paying for Game Pass, whether it's standard or ultimate, you could have put that money towards buying the game and owning it. Game Pass Ultimate is also a great option if you're like me and you have access to every aspect of the Xbox ecosystem. If you play games on PC, console, and cloud. I play the majority of my games on my Series X, but lately I've been playing Age of Mythology, and back in the day I used to play that on PC, and I wanted to emulate that feeling. I have Game Pass Ultimate, so I booted up the Xbox app on PC and I downloaded it there. That's how I've been playing it. With this price increase, Game Pass Ultimate seems to have taken on a very different tone. The old prices, the $10, $15 a month, it really felt like that was targeted towards a more casual crowd. Like, oh, maybe you pick up a Series S and you snuggle in for the night, you browse the Game Pass catalog like you would with Netflix or any other streaming service, find a game that you like, and then settle in. But at $20 a month for Game Pass Ultimate, there's still a lot of value there. There's a lot of exciting things that they're offering, but it seems geared towards a more serious crowd, a specific demographic of Xbox gamers that have, like me, a PC, an Xbox, good internet for cloud gaming. They have time to play a bunch of games and burn through all the newest releases. Game Pass Ultimate's main strength, in my opinion, is the sheer variety of games that you have access to. And even if those new games get added, you try them out, and you're like, this isn't really for me, you have those other games, that huge catalog to fall back on. In the month of July, they added Dungeons of Hinterberg and also Flintlock Siege of Dawn. Both of those games leading up to the release, I was like, oh, those look cool. I definitely want to try them out. But when I did that, I was like, these games, I don't really know if they're for me. And I took that opportunity to play Fallout 3, which is a game that I didn't play back in the day, and I ended up loving it. On the other side, the library, the huge variety, the offerings that they have, that could be seen as a con to some people. Maybe you're someone that gets choice paralysis, like you're scrolling through Netflix, and even as you're staring in the face of hundreds of TV shows and movies, you're like, meh, there's nothing to watch. Let's move on to Game Pass Standard. This is the new middle tier of Game Pass. There's no console Game Pass anymore. This is the new tier, and it's priced at $14.99 a month. And here's what you get if you subscribe to Game Pass Standard. According to the Xbox website, you get to play hundreds of high-quality games on console, dive into legendary franchises from Fallout to Halo and everything in between, join friends and family or the greater Xbox community to play together with online console multiplayer. So yes, you get a catalog of games, you get access to Xbox Live or online multiplayer, and you get those discounts on games if you want to buy any from the Game Pass catalog. But instead of getting around like 460-ish games in Game Pass Ultimate, you as a Game Pass Standard subscriber will get like 350-ish, because you're not getting any of the games from EA Play, so no Star Wars games, Battlefield, Crysis, no Activision Blizzard games, no Call of Duty, no nothing, and you're not getting any day one additions. They also took off some other first-party games from the standard tier, like Starfield and Forza Motorsport. Now, when they say that this is a quality library of games, technically they are not lying. I went through every game in the Game Pass Standard tier. I looked at what their rating was on the Microsoft Xbox Store, added them all up, and found the average score, which is about like 4.023. So chances are, if you're on this Game Pass Standard tier and you just pick a game at random, it's gonna be a quality game. The lowest rated game I found was Commonhood at 1.8, and there were multiple games rated at 4.7. That was the highest rating I saw in this system. But as I finished finding the average rating of games in the standard library, I remembered a video I did a couple of years back, which revolved around pretty much the same premise. I found the average Metacritic rating of games in Ultimate and the regular tier of Game Pass, how it compared to when Game Pass first came out. And in that video, I kind of realized the rating system is kind of useless because there are games that are rated as like mediocre and Metacritic and on the Microsoft Store that I really enjoy. There's also this thing that happens where, yeah, sure, Peppa Pig and Friends has a 4 out of 5 star rating on the Microsoft Store. Doesn't mean that you're going to download it and play it. So let's move on to whether or not the games in standard are good or not. The one thing that you need to know if you are considering subscribing to the standard Game Pass tier is that you're committing to having a catalog of games that are old. Doesn't mean they're bad, but they are going to be older. There are a few titles that are from like 2020 to 2023 that are really good. Sea of Stars, Dead Island 2, Psychonauts 2, Halo Infinite, Forza Horizon 5, but that's about where it maxes out. The newest games that you're going to have access to at that point, by the time they're added to the Game Pass standard library, are going to be like a year or two old. The only exception being this Expeditions Mud Runner game that came out in 2024, apparently. The working theory is that any new game that Xbox puts out, Fable, Indiana Jones, Perfect Dark, they won't be making their way over to Game Pass standard for at least 12 months, if not more. Now, if that's cool with you, great. Maybe you missed out on the past like 6-7 years of gaming and you want a good way to catch up. That's pretty much what I use my PS Plus subscription for. When I bought my PS5, I subscribed to PS Plus, and at the time they had like a classics collection. So I used that subscription to catch up on God of War, The Last of Us, Days Gone. And if you subscribe to this tier, you are still getting access to hundreds of games that if you bought individually would total in the hundreds, if not thousands of dollars spent. But the fact that this is once again a catalog of games that is on the older side, well, usually at that point in a game's life cycle, you can find them for pretty cheap if you just wanted to buy them individually. Maybe I'm a little bit biased on this tier. Me personally, I find it very hard to get excited for Game Pass Standard now because, well, $15 a month is what I used to pay for Ultimate. That gave me day one games plus a bunch of other stuff. And this middle tier, before it became Game Pass Standard, it used to be like 10, 11 bucks, and you got access to any day one games that Xbox put out. Now let's get into the bottom tier of Game Pass Core, the tier that kicked off all of these changes. This tier used to be Xbox Live Gold, but they were like, well, we're not going to do games with gold anymore because we pretty much can't. So let's just transition it into another tier of Game Pass. It's $10 a month, and instead of getting a free game or two like you used to with games with gold, you just have access to a small library of games. But unlike games with gold, where if you claimed them, you owned them, in order to have access to this selection of games, you have to keep your subscription active. Right now, there are 45 games in this tier of Game Pass, and honestly, there are some pretty decent ones. Control Ultimate Edition, Gears 5, Elder Scrolls Online, Grounded, Fallout 4, Chivalry, baby.
Take this, villain. Ha-ha! Take this, villain. Executed. Bam!
Oh. They have Halo 5 on here, but I wish that they put the Master Chief Collection into this tier. That feels like a core Xbox game experience. I see a lot of people crapping on this tier because it's not games with gold anymore, you're not getting the free games anymore, but I feel like the price is reasonable for what you're getting, which is the online plus the 45 games, and that game catalog is going to keep growing. At first, when they launched it, it was like 20, 25 games. Now it's 45, so it's already doubled in the past couple of months, and I can only imagine it's going to grow more and more going into the future. Only thing is, I would not recommend paying monthly for this. $120 a year for this specifically seems a little bit steep. I would absolutely recommend buying a yearly thing, whether it's from Best Buy, Amazon, wherever. $60, you're good for the year. That seems like a good, decent, fair price. Side note, they need to do that for the other tiers too. They need to make that happen, buying a year at a slight discount. I get that $20 a month for Game Pass Ultimate. They stand to make more money off of people who subscribe for a year, but I'm thinking about retention here. Sure, you won't make as money off of a yearly Game Pass subscription if someone buys it up front, but you guarantee that they will be a customer for the next year. Whereas if you're asking them to pay $20 a month, you're giving them the opportunity to be like, I don't really know if this is for me, and then walk away. A yearly option for Standard and Ultimate would also be an awesome way to reward hardcore fans, people who want to be locked in for a year. Let's move on to the 4th tier of Game Pass. Yes, 4 tiers of Game Pass. I know it's a lot to keep track of. PC Game Pass. Right now, this is currently priced at $12 a month. And honestly, this has become the most interesting Game Pass deal by far. If you're subscribed to PC Game Pass, you get pretty much every perk that you would get if you subscribe to Game Pass Ultimate, minus being able to play games on console or cloud. And yes, that includes day one games, whether they are first party or third party, Activision Blizzard games like Call of Duty, and also EA Play. There's also a couple of PC games that are thrown into PC Game Pass that are just not out on console yet. For example, the full lineup for Age of Empires versus just 2 and 4. The only things that it doesn't include are certain games from the 360 generation, like Gears 2 and 3, and also Halo 5 is missing for some reason. PC Game Pass, especially at this price point, feels like the Game Pass that initially got me hooked and excited. It's still at that cheap price point that made it appealing in the first place. There's been a lot of criticism being leveled at Xbox, at Microsoft, saying that they're not really prioritizing their console player base, that they're shifting their focus, they're getting distracted, trying to grow their PC presence, their cloud gaming presence. And in my humble opinion, as a guy with a camera and a YouTube channel, if there is any evidence that Xbox is prioritizing the PC side of things over the console, it's this. Because if you're a console-only player, you have a Series X or a Series S, and you want to subscribe to Game Pass, and you want all the same perks that a PC Game Pass subscriber would get, you're gonna have to pay $8 more, which is a 66% price increase. Something about that just doesn't feel wholly right to me. To be fair, there is a higher upfront cost to being a PC gamer in the first place, and lately a lot of games coming out multi-platform have been way better optimized on the console side versus PC side. But still, if you're an Xbox fan and you decided to leave consoles behind, go full PC, it is a great deal. It's still in that no-brainer kind of price point zone. And of course, being on PC, you don't have to worry about paying to play games online. At the end of the day, Xbox's overall Game Pass strategy has changed dramatically since the start of this generation. A big part of that has to do with the integration of Activision Blizzard. And with these changes, while I may not see a certain tier of Game Pass Standard fitting into my gaming life or being appealing to me, it doesn't mean that's going to be the case for everyone. Maybe Game Pass Standard is perfect for you. But while we have to pay a little bit more for it, I really do think that for me, Game Pass Ultimate is still worth it. And that's not even including all of the cool stuff that they have on the way. Game Pass Ultimate might not be worth it for everyone though. At that point, I would definitely recommend wholeheartedly Game Pass Core at the $60 price point for the year, and also PC Game Pass. I would recommend that every single day of the week. Anyways, guys, that's all the Xbox stuff I have to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me for another edition of Xbox Ready. If you made it this far into the video, I would really appreciate if you subscribe to the channel and help me on my journey to get to 200,000 subs. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.